Alright, Diablo 4 players, the mythic items, how do we actually acquire them? Well, they are actually acquired with something called a spark, and I'll go ahead and go over how we are going to be farming these sparks in the game, or essentially, we can actually get a mythic to drop via what we're doing right now. So our whole goal in Season 9 is specifically pretty much the same as it has always been, but there are some newer tips and tricks here for Season 9, as there's other ways to get runes which really help out when you want to target craft the mythic unique that you want. So for starters, the main method that 99% of players are going to be getting their mythic uniques is just to farm the bosses again and again and again. Belial's kind of the one that most people do. Remember that you do want to try to do this in a group where you can kill them within a couple seconds. If it takes, 5-10 seconds, it's not that big a deal. But if it's a group where it's taking like 2 to 3 minutes and some players are dying, you gotta revive, maybe find a different group. That's one of the best tips that I can actually give you guys. And don't worry about like leaving the group, because everyone has to use their own mats. It's not like you usually use rotations here. But the main method is to get these layer boss keys and farm these on Tormented 4 in a group as often as you possibly can. This is the main method, and then you just open up the chest again and again. In theory, these are supposed to be all equal in terms of like opening up the chest, but you want to get these layer boss keys, and the one that most people want to do is Belial. You can do other bosses. I just don't really recommend Andariel, as a lot of times if you don't have a good group, Andariel will kind of be the main area that gets players killed, then you have to revive and reset. But basically, you're doing the same bosses over and over again. So I want to go over where can we actually find a good group. So one of the best areas to actually get a group together is actually using the Sanctuary Diablo 4 community Discord. This is got official Blizzard members in here, but the main thing to take away from this is it's just the most popular Discord over here. What you want to do is you want to go to Google and then type in Sanctuary Diablo Discord. It's the one that has like 500,000 members. That's the one you just want to go ahead and join. And then in the very beginning, it'll ask if you're playing softcore, hardcore, and what you're looking for specifically is the softcore and the seasonal one. I just took the screenshot like a second ago. There are tons and tons of players constantly looking for more players to do the Belials. Now, one thing that is also very important, if you are doing this, make sure that 1, you bring your own materials, 2, someone in the party can actually kill Belial, because this happens sometimes where you get 4 players and all of them have 0 DPS. Make sure that you either advertise your battle tag over here, and you can say like no damage. Some people will say that they can solo kill, so it's very important to have at least one person be able to be the carry in the group. So make sure you guys go to, again, softcore or hardcore. You go to LFG, which means looking for a group, and the exalted boss over here. So this is the main #1 source that everyone is actually doing. This is where most people are getting their mythics. Now, if you don't happen to have these Betrayer's Husk, you can play the game and get them legitimately. But the reality is people use this website called Diablo.trade, and what we do is we go over to the website and we post all of our items. And if you guys need a guide on like which items are actually worth certain amounts of gold and how to price check items that actually drop, utilize my video. I will also have that linked, or just look up like Diablo 4 how to price check the value of an item, and it goes over how to use the website. So what you do with that, once you sell a bunch of items for gold, then you just purchase these for gold. Not real money. These are just in-game gold currencies. Again, gold is what you want to use, and you want to get those husks. This is the main area that everyone is getting their materials. But there are also guaranteed ways, because this method that I'm showing you guys, honestly, the drop rate is pretty bad. It's like 1 to 2% in terms of how many times you have to open up these to actually get a mythic. But remember, you can still get a lot of great uniques. I'm actually just looking for a specific item like Fist of Fate here. But pretty much what it comes down to is if you get these sparks, you can actually guaranteed craft one. So I'm going to show you guys the guaranteed methods. But again, I wanted to first off go over the main method that everyone's getting them. But then I want to go over also the other methods that you guys can actually acquire these sparks to actually craft the mythic. There is 2 forms of crafting the mythic. There is crafting a mythic via a randomness, and there's also crafting a mythic via this very specific one that you want. So how it works is you're going to be getting these sparks, and you have 3 guaranteed sparks pretty much every single season. So let's go over how we can acquire those sparks. So if you go to Saragar, one of the areas with the Herodic knowledge, you just click on the thing, and it will be like kind of a bounty board quest. At the very end, which is tier 18, you will get this reward over here that will guarantee you a spark as well as a bunch of other crafting materials. But basically, this is our one way to get a guaranteed spark. There's another guaranteed spark if you kill Lilith on Tormented difficulty. This one is pretty easy, however, there is a current bug with this boss. If somehow she enters a state where you actually cannot eliminate her, well, just reset it. It's unfortunate that there's a lot of bugs this season, to be honest, but this is another guaranteed plus an additional spark. So this way we have 2 guaranteed sparks. Now, normally I always recommend you guys to do the season journey, but this season, I'm going to be real with you guys, I'm going to shift it up and say it's still worth trying to progress eventually to get it, but it's not something where like you want to just try to rush it. And the reason why is there's a lot of things that are really annoying to actually get to complete the season journey, and eventually you'll probably end up doing it, but you do have to read some of the powers. A lot of the powers this season require you to kill a monster or disable a very specific thing using a specific infusion on your heraldic powers. So you can see over here that this person's like, use this specific power, and then this one says use any infusion spell to get rid of the monster affixes. And what's causing this bug, by the way, is if you apparently relog in sometimes, or if you swap characters, or if you just swap any infusions, this bugs the objective out. So just keep that in mind. Honestly, for this season, again, I would say this is not like the smoothest way to get a spark, but it's something that eventually most people will want to do because you're going to get these earned blessings. There's not a very specific season blessing that like gives you more loot out of like the treasure chest or anything like that, but for the most part, this one, it is technically there, but it's a little bit rough. These are normally like 3 easy ways to get guaranteed sparks because you actually can get 2 sparks to craft any mythic that you want, but you also need the runes. You can also salvage to get an additional spark if you salvage a mythic that you don't want, like the Melted Heart of Slig, but there are 2 ways to actually craft. So if you go to the blacksmith over here, you can see if you go to the forge equipment tab, there is crafting a mythic unique. Now, it does require 50 million gold and 2 sparks. 50 million gold, to be honest, is really not that big of a deal. It's pretty much the sparks that you want. So this is how you craft the mythic. Now, this one will craft a random one from whatever can drop on your character. That's actually very important to mention. And then you can also go to the jeweler, but the jeweler requires 2 sparks. It only costs 5,000 gold here, but the main problem is you require a bunch of runes, and a lot of the runes that you require, you have to have multiple copies of, and it takes a really long time to actually farm these. So my suggestion, again, would be to go to the Diablo trade website, and then look for the exact runes that you want. You just type in whatever rune that you're looking for. It depends on what you're crafting. Keep in mind, every single one of these is going to require different sets of runes. Most of them are kind of like, there's like 2 that are like whatever, it doesn't really matter, but then it requires multiple copies of a legendary rune, which is the annoying part. Now, how do we farm the legendary runes? Well, I've been playing it in the background of the gameplay. Not only is it one of the best areas to get runes, but if you do want to try to get the mythics, this is also a great way to get the mythics. So it's just farming these exalted layer bosses, again, tormented for again and again and again. However, this season, things have actually shifted up. This is where Season 9 kind of makes a little bit of a change here, and the Tribute of Harmony is actually worth running. You're going to get more runes here. Now, don't expect to get all of the runes that you need by just doing one of these. It's going to take lots and lots of tries, but you will get more legendary runes, which means with more legendary runes, you can go online and you can trade runes. Also, I've been seeing the trade chat channel in Diablo 4 this season be relatively active for runes. So what you guys can do if you want to is you can trade runes for runes. There is also at the jeweler, you can randomize the runes. It's like a 3-to-1 ratio or something like that. Don't do that. Go to the Diablo trade website or spam the all chat or say, hey, does anyone have this rune? I have this rune. Make sure that they're the same color. If you're asking for like a legendary rune, don't try to offer a blue rune. Most people will just not engage in that trade because it's a bad trade. So again, legendary for legendary runes is kind of what it can go for. Some runes are worth more than others, like Ahu is kind of like a one that a lot of people like to run in builds, or like Ohm Rune. So keep in mind, some of these may have different values, but for the most part, a lot of people are like, it's just like 1-to-1 ratio, as long as it's in the same tier. It depends on the rune though, but specifically, again, Tribute of Harmony is worth doing. It has gotten a buff in this season. Another great way is to use the Tribute of Radiance. There's a there's two different ones. There is Resolute, and there is also another one, which is United. So you can see this item over here says Resolute. There's one that says Resolute, which means only the person that enters the Undercity. If you guys don't know what the Undercity is, this does require you to have the expansion, just like this one, actually. The Tribute of Harmony and the Tribute of Ascendance, because it's a Vessel of Hatred mechanic, by the way, just because I know the game went free-to-play recently on PlayStation, and some people may not know this, but this requires the Vessel of Hatred expansion to engage with this, or essentially the runes. To actually engage with runes, you actually need the expansion too. But as far as it goes, Tribute of Ascendance, make sure that it says United. Mine says Resolute right here, which means only I get the rewards. If you have one that drops that says United, and these could drop from the world bosses, or you could just play the game and you could turn the Tree of Whispers, maybe you get one. I've actually got several of these, and you get about a 1 in 4 chance to get a Mythic Unique if you do the Undercity. It only takes like 2 or 3 minutes to do it, but you don't want to just go in alone. Unless it's a Resolute. If it's a Resolute, that means you only get the rewards. There's one that says United, which rewards everyone with the rewards. If you have that one, go to the Sanctuary Discord and find 3 other people. You can see over here there says Softcore, LFG, Undercity, and then what you want to look for, because there's a couple different ones here. There's like ones to do Refinement, which is for like the Obdicite material, and then you want to look for the one that says Mythic Ascended United Rota. Rota, which stands for rotation, which means one person puts it in, the other person puts it in, and the other person puts it in. Everyone kind of does a rotation of it. So that means you are also required to put in one. Most people only do like 1 times on this one. But another really helpful tool that I would really want to mention that will really get you ahead of the game is, again, watch my Diablo 4 guide on how to price check items for specifically the trade website, as this is your ultimate tool, whether it's buying, selling, and trading runes. By the way, this is not a sponsored video. There's lots of different websites, but Diablo.trade is pretty much the best one, okay? But there are other ones like Crimson Market, but basically you have to screenshot your items, which is kind of annoying, but this is the best way to actually list your items. And then I also have a guide if you want to learn how to sell items, how it kind of works. But this video is absolutely key to finding out how much is your item that drops worth. If your item, by the way, is not a greater affix, do not list the item. You're wasting everyone's time. You're wasting like resources here. So make sure you're at least trying to sell items that people do want. Watch that video guide. It will help you out tremendously. And don't try to farm these by yourself, as in don't try to farm the Betrayer's Husk. It requires you to kind of just farm bosses, then you can kill Belial, then you can drop. But don't try to farm these. Get items as random drops when you're just playing the game in the pit or whatever. Get greater affix items, list them, buy the husks, do hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of runs. And I'm not kidding when I say hundreds of runs, because I know there's newer players all the time, and they may think, oh, go to this boss. You can see I have like an inventory full of things. There's no mythic that dropped within, hours of gameplay. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes you get one mythic within like several hours. That is normal. The mythics, guys, are the rarest items in the game, and I just want to go ahead and stress that if you guys aren't getting the mythic you want, it's just something where you're going to have to keep on grinding, man. It takes a really, really long time to get the mythics. But again, you can go craft a random one, which honestly, if you're in the very beginning stages of the game and you don't have any mythics, it can be okay. But if you get the Melted Heart of Selig, it sucks, but that's the reality of the game. You would just have to get another spark, salvage it, and hopefully get one of the mythics that you need. And then ideally, if you can craft the one that you want, again, at the jeweler, this is kind of like your best method of getting that one mythic unique that you want. Otherwise, it's giving you a random one. So 2 sparks equals random mythic, 2 sparks plus runes equals you get to craft whatever you want at the jeweler, which is at Rillen over here. But that's going to wrap it up for Season 9. So basically, the biggest changes are you can actually get runes a lot easier. So it's going to be better for a lot of players to get the mythic that they want. But you still have to farm the sparks, which is either play, get the mythic to drop, salvage the bad mythic, which is basically going to be like Melted Heart of Selig. Then also Doombringer's kind of not as good this season, but there's also other ones that you can salvage depending on the class that you play. But ideally, you probably want to look at playing like the rogue, so you cannot get like things that you don't really want. Like Doombringers and Melted Heart of Selig are kind of the ones that you wouldn't want, but the rest are like actually pretty decent. But if you guys haven't seen the video that I dropped recently, I highly recommend you guys to also check out the video that talks about what is the best mythic to actually craft in Season 9, which will also be linked down below. I know there's a lot of info here, but I'm just trying to give it to you guys as fast as possible. But that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. That's how you can get the mythics in Season 9. Those are all of the good methods to actually acquire them. Hopefully the video guide helped you guys out. If it did, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn on the bell if you want to be up to date on more strategies, more farming techniques, and other Diablo and more games. But anyways, peace out, guys.